Hey everybody. I just wanted to get on here. I am live streaming the space that I'm hosting right now on X. If you would like to join this conversation, please use the link in the description and join us. See you in a bit. Okay, Roy, you got it?
Yeah, I've got it. It took me a minute. I had to turn the mic on for the app. Sorry about that.
No problem. No problem. How are you?
I'm doing very well. I hope you all are doing fine too.
Yeah, we're hanging in there. It's a Monday evening. The world isn't completely on fire yet, so we're still making it.
Well, they're trying to get it, get hot, and they're being pretty successful with it.
I'd have to agree with you. That's why I wanted to have this conversation with you. And let me tell you, man, it's been a long time coming because I want to get some people in here, but I kind of want to share people like how we met and everything. Because I mean, for everybody who's listening, Roy and I haven't met officially. I actually found Roy on YouTube, and I was watching his videos and I watched, um, him slowly but surely find himself a place where he couldn't respect anyone politically. And I watched his journey, and then he kind of stopped doing YouTube channels, but I would see him on X posting things. So I connected with him because I think that he has an amazing amount of insight on American history, military experience. He has a lengthy formal educational log that he doesn't like to mention all of his degrees and things like that. But I mean, he has experience in pretty much everything that everybody has questions about now. But Roy, you did a live the other day that really made me want to further the conversation. When you were discussing about the problems that we are going to be dealing with and problems that we are dealing with right now in regards to religion. And I want you to kind of like just kind of start off that about that live, the last live that you did, and what you're trying to make people see and understand in regards to religion and why we're going to constantly have problems through around the world because of religion. Like, what would you say is the number one problem that it's causing, that we can all agree that happened with all of the religions? What would you say the number one, if you had to start, what would that be?
Religion itself. I mean, it's kind of a difficult subject because people want to find out that there's more than just this, that they have a connection to the eternal, the divine, however you want to call it, or if there even is one. The problem is that the actual origin of the word religion is regulation. In other words, control. And so organized religion, I'm not kidding myself. No, I grew up on my YouTube channel. I've explained quite a bit of that. I went through a number of religions and finally decided that, when I did have what I consider to be a connection to God, the formal institutions didn't like it and would call me on the carpet for it. They wanted me to bow down to them. And I won't go into any details about that, but they came down seriously where they said, well, if God talks to you directly, or if our leader talks to you, who are you going to listen to? And I said, well, God, of course. And they said, wrong answer. That's the kind of thing I'm into. I was always a studious kid. And, whenever I did look at a religion, no matter what it was, and it wasn't just, I think most everybody knows I'm mostly concentrated on early Israelite culture and that kind of thing. And there's some problems even with that, but I got into, Hindus, the Vedics, I got into, of course, different aspects of Christianity. Even got into things like the Urantia book and Madame Blavatsky and all her stuff. I pretty much covered the gamut. And the problem that you always have is that it divides people. That's the problem with the religion. If you don't agree with me, then I'm not saying you have to agree with me. I'm just saying this in a generic sense. If you don't agree with me, then we have nothing in common, and I want nothing to do with you. I'll call you apostate. I'll throw you out of the church, out of our congregation. You're whatever the accusations are, and it's widespread on X, for instance. When I was starting to post more of my YouTubes on X and then explaining them, it was amazing. I mean, I had people that I thought were reasonably well versed in what we call the Bible, and yet would have intelligence to kind of consider, some aspects. For instance, the difference in translations, the difference in the way that you define word, be it in Hebrew or Greek or Aramaic or whatever. And they didn't like that. And what it came down to was I was causing them to have a question or even become somewhat abrasive because I didn't agree with their position. I was called an apostate, a blasphemer, and all these kinds of things. And those kinds of things roll off my back, but it makes me feel bad because what that shows me is that they're so wrapped up in the dogma of their own personal beliefs that they won't even. I realize that questioning your faith is precarious. It's something that you're actually endangering your position in your faith. It should be that way. And I think it's Thomas Jefferson that wrote one of his daughters, and he said, if God is the omnipotent, omniscient being that we think that he is, he's not going to be upset with you asking questions and checking things out. And even in the Bible, in the Old Testament, I believe it's in Isaiah, he says, let us reason together as one man reasons with another. It's not blind obedience. That's been, unfortunately, that was pounded into us primarily from well, it wasn't even considered Judaism. It was the old Israelite religion. It started then. It exists elsewhere to some degree, but actually the pagans, if I can use that term, it's kind of low. I like to use it loosely. The pagans are much more amenable to people having different ideas than the Judeo-Christians. That's a bad term, but the Judeo-Christians are so adamant, and yet, as I studied that during the years, and as you know, I concentrated on early Israelite history, culture, language, religion, their spiritual systems. The history was extremely important, as I started covering on X some time ago, and I did a couple of YouTube videos on that. The last few that I did, it's not a clean slate. It's not a clean history. It's wrought with distortions, fantasies, and if you don't understand that and just go blindly into what's preached from the pulpit, you're not really going to understand the real issues involved. So that's I think is the problem. I saw one gentleman who said, man created religion, God created free agency or freedom of choice. And I don't use that along the abortion thing. I'm just talking about the idea of personal liberty. And that's really what it comes down to. And it would be very difficult for me to, on spaces here, without taking up too much time, to explain that, it's okay to believe what you want to believe, but it's very wrong to insist somebody else follow through with your personal beliefs or your dogma. That's just not right. God approaches everyone according to their own ability, their own desires, their own willingness to ask the questions that nobody else wants to ask. And without that, if you're prevented from doing that under some threat of force or violence or saying that you're going to be thrown out of the community or whatever, then you won't arrive. And if you succumb to that, you won't arrive at the truth that God is trying to reveal. I don't care what religion you're in. So that's kind of where I am. I respect everybody's beliefs, even though they don't think that I do. But at the same time, I realize that they're in a situation, most of them are in a situation where if you, and I don't mean to challenge them, what I'm trying to show them that there are other issues. And a lot of people don't even like that. So maybe I shouldn't even go there. A few times I've just thought, if people really want to know, they'll come to me. And that's one reason why I kind of say on YouTube, I really said everything there that I needed to. There's no sense in me going back there. Plus, they censor me like crazy. So I think they've taken down out of I think I had something like 1,300 videos or something like that, and they've taken down like 400 of them. And, I just got tired of that. And people said, well, why don't you go to another platform? And I said, no, eventually the same thing will happen there. And sure enough, you're on X, I've been censored more than once. So at any rate, I think that's the problem. I think religion is a divisive thing. It's not a unification. I don't want to go to the point where we're all the same. That's not good either. I'm not expecting that. What I expect is that that people will not put you in a particular label or corner because you don't agree with their religion, their concepts. But unfortunately, most religions call for that type of bias and bigotry, and so that's the problem as I see it. Now, I know that was a long answer.
No, it was a well detailed answer, and it was a couple of points that you made that I kind of wanted to piggyback on, because um, I find that that is the problem. I find that anything that causes division is purposefully done. One, um, and I think that it's all to keep us away from basically being more spiritual beings. And hi to everybody in the space. Thank you all for being here. I have a friend here, Vivian. She actually she tries to push the spiritual aspect of conversations versus religion, because as soon as you invite religion into a conversation, you're going to have a fight of some sort. And I mean, and it's so uh it's actually pretty sadistic how everyone has manipulated all of the religions to sway and to turn man against away from man. I mean, it's pretty unbelievable to watch what we all have been witnessing, honestly, since 9/11, to be perfectly honest. But you
Sure.
know, we can just bring it to October 7th if you like. But it's difficult for me to start with October 7th, knowing about 9/11. It's, and that's the problem. We keep having these instances that are literally, I believe, a cry from God, for us to unify, for us to be more for supporting man, because that is what we are. Um, and we don't. We all know that there were no weapons of mass destruction. We all know that, honestly, and to be perfectly honest, Islam has no reason to attack a Christian place, because they actually do believe in Jesus Christ, versus Israel, who considers Jesus to be some sort of like black magician. So it doesn't even make any sense, ideology wise, for it to have been them. But not to mention the gross amount of evidence that shows that it was completely orchestrated by our government in Israel, and they were able to kill millions of people, occupy their land. And that is what we're watching happening in Gaza right now. I don't understand how people don't see what's happening in Gaza right now, what's happening in Yemen right now, what's happening in Syria, what's happening everywhere that we have our hands tied in. I don't see how everyone doesn't see that this is colonization all over again. I mean, this is the same. This is exactly what happens every time you have these powers that be. They show up. They decide that the people don't know how to live. Their culture isn't appropriate. They decide that this isn't the way of life. They're not civilized. So let's bring a civilization here and show them, because as if they were some sort of animals. When everyone in the world, all around the world, you have the most beautiful, diverse cultures. I've traveled a bit in my life. When I went to Malaysia, um, I got to tell you, one of the best experiences that I had was being in the hotel in the outdoor pool with my son. And all day long, they're doing prayers. And I mean, the whole city hears it. And I had no idea what they were saying, but it just felt the energy. You can feel it, and the faith. You can feel it, and you know, for anyone to want to fight that is a very bizarre character. Anyone to say that that's not the way of life is a very bizarre character, and it's no one that I want to follow. And we keep finding ourselves fighting and missing the big picture.
And we're not fighting.
And
It's three people fighting.
yeah, this is my hubby. See, this is Roy.
Hey, Roy, how you doing, brother? Santana. Hey, dig it.
Hello, nice to meet you.
Yeah, I was watching your video a couple days ago, and when they shut you off, it felt like a cliffhanger because you were really hitting on some really powerful things. You were saying that destroy this whole power struggle that we're dealing with right now, and if we just if we could just look and be honest about these things and realize that none of us are winning, and the only people who are suffering are the people. The system's growing, it's getting bigger, it's getting more power, but the people who are suffering, and it's not just America, it's everywhere. All these countries that we are involved with, everyone is suffering, and they just do such a good job of dividing us. And what I would really absolutely love to here in this discussion is why are we so divided, and what conversations do we need to have to get through this bullshit. And what I mean is there's 300 million ex-Americans, people in America, but we're fighting, and most of them are bullshit. Can we have a conversation to discuss all of the bullshit so that we can get to the bottom of it and fight against everyone, whether you're black, white, Muslim, Jew, gay, or straight, has got a terrible enemy that we all are being screwed by. We're all getting tortured, and we're all in this situation. And the same people who are shutting down what you're saying, Roy, are the same ones that are shutting down BN. BN is Muslim. BN is in London. They shut her down. I'm a can you dig it black dude hiding in Mexico. They shut me down. The same people who are kicking our ass. Somehow, why can't we kind of get past what we're dealing with that's not that big and focus on who the real problem is? And in order to do so, we need to have a conversation. And I believe that we need to let this be the starting point to have a conversation to see what needs to be said, and develop a little trust. And let's get together and look at the common enemy. And not that we're looking for an enemy. We are not their enemy, but they are our enemy, and they are humanity's enemy. And anyone who got eyes to see anything right now knows very strongly knows that something terrible is about to happen. And you notice they've got in a very elaborate plan, and the plan they have us is horrible. So, um, baby, go ahead. I just wanted to kind of get in with and I appreciate what you're saying about the religion. I study with Muslims. I study with Seventh Day Adventists. I study from Buddha. I study from everything. It's all information, and to me, all of it is absolutely beautiful. There's none of them outside of Satanism that isn't beautiful, and they're all saying the same thing. But somehow we're missing that message. And Roy, there's a woman on this chat right now by the name of Vian, and she does spaces, and she's Muslim. But when she does her spaces, she speaks on spiritualism, because spiritualism is the true science that we all should be studying, that we're being taken away from. But she specifically doesn't bring her religion to it because she knows it causes division. So can we have that conversation? And the people who are in the space, you can feel free to request a mic. But can we have a conversation about what it is that we're doing, where we're not able to see each other and see that we're getting our asses kicked by the same bully?
I'm not going to pretend to know the actual answer to that. They have thousands of years a jump on us, so to speak. So I'm not sure that we're going to solve the world's problems.
Are you sure?
but I can say this, and then I'll just let somebody else say something that they'd like to. Um, you know, when we look into someone's face, and I never really looked at it this way. I think people that listen to me talk, for instance, the God that's known as Yod He Vav He, the Jehovah, as some people say it. There's a lot of difficulty on that. A lot of people are totally against it. I'm just using this as an example. I could talk about like I said, the Vedic stuff and the Hindus and Vishnu and all those too. But just concentrating on this for a minute. Um, the the thing that I heard the other day, and I called it this before. I've called that particular name not the name of an individual as it's presented to us, but as a system. In other words, what is that system, and how would it bind us together? Unlike anything else, you could get Jupiter, or you could get Zeus, you could get, like I said, Vishnu rather, whatever. Uh, but you're still talking about all these different things. So what would unite us? And you know, I heard another. I study Kabbalah, and there's a dark Kabbalah and there's a white Kabbalah, and people say, "Oh, that's magic." No, it's not. It depends on how you use it, like screwdriver, whether you use it the right way or the wrong way. But I heard this other gentleman talking the other day, and he said, you know, what God is actually is a construct code. And when you look into somebody else's face, you see that construct code. And I won't go into the details of it other than to say they have eyes to see light, they have a nose to breathe air, and they have a mouth to eat and drink. We're all the same. We are all like that. Even on down into the insect kingdom, you've got that, even lower. So, I think you're going to have, whenever you have people together, human beings, there are going to be differences, and people are going to probably lose their temper and those types of things. But basically, I think if we could just get to the point where we look at somebody and we see that God's construct code is the same throughout everything on the earth. Now, again, I call it a system rather than a construct code, but it's the same basic thing. And you see it every day. Everybody wants to. I had another fellow that was one of my teachers, a sage, and he said, everybody wants to talk to God. The real question is, who does God want to talk to? Well, if you've got your mind set up already about what God is, you're already putting up a boundary. And yet the manifestation of what He is all around us. Again, you look into somebody's face, and we're all made pretty much the same way. There's not really any difference there. So I guess without that and the system that you're talking about, the system doesn't want us to recognize it that way. We hear that, and I shouldn't go here, but I'm going to. You hear all this thing about, we've got the peace president now, the guy that's going to go for peace. That's what he's all about. Really? And almost immediately the division starts, and it's along lines, and I'm just going to say it, it's, Israel versus everybody else. And if you're not on Israel's side, then, you're wrong. And that's the way people look. And they don't even understand the history. I doubt that Trump understands the history. I think he's probably had some Kabbalistic training, but I doubt that he knows. What it comes down to is, my side is bigger and badder than your side. And so, as King Arthur said, are we going to have so that might makes right, or might is right, or might for right? If you understand the differences there of what I'm talking about, that's not common in the world, and look at the slaughter that's happening in the Middle East right now. Of course, you've got the Islamic folks there that are in charge right now, going after some of their own kind and killing the Alawites and the Christians. You've got Christians who over the past have slaughtered others, and you've got Jews slaughtering, Palestinians now, all under some pretense that somehow they're not God's chosen people, or the people that they're killing are not God's chosen, they're beasts of the field. That's the problem. I look into a person's face and I don't see a beast, but that's how it's defined in so many religions. You're either called an infidel or a beast. The Jewish side likes to call everybody a beast of the field. A lot of people don't understand that, but that's the case. The only ones that are truly human, so to speak, are the people that espouse the particular Abrahamic system. So I don't know what the answer is. We have to have people that are willing to stand up and say, that guy there, that woman there, they're really no different than me. I see God's image in them. I have to respect them. That doesn't mean you have to make yourself a victim of them. You still have to maintain some sense of situational awareness, but I think that's the key. And I think a lot of the religions have tried to do that, but then they're co-opted, and I don't know how to stop that. I really don't. Maybe that's part of our experience here, that we just have to go through this and use our own discernment. Matter of fact, that same sage I talked about here just a few minutes ago, he told me, he said, you're going to be left to your own devices. And that sounds pretty nasty. That almost sounds irreligious or unspiritual, but I think that's our experience here. We're pretty much left to our own devices and how we're going to do things. So the right and wrong that you heard me talk about in my video my upload on X the other night. We're all confronted with those choices, and maybe this world is a place where that's not going to change. I mean, a lot of people thought 2,000 years ago that the kingdom of God was coming in and everything was going to be hunky dory, and it didn't happen, and we're still in that situation, if not worse today. So what's really going on? And I have to look at it and say, this is where you find out who you are. And if it was a utopia and everything was, like I said, hunky dory, you're not going to find out who you are, because you're not confronted with the differences and the contradictions that make you have to choose. So I don't know that there's any answer to this right now, everybody. This is an individual development for all of us. How we react, how we do things. I think this is the proving ground, and I know a lot of religions say that, but they don't really understand or explain why that is. But I think that's what it is. We're deciding. We're our own judge. When all this is done, you look back and you see what you did. You're gonna know what you did was right or wrong, and you wouldn't have known if you didn't have the experience. Christians get upset at me because I say, Jesus isn't going to save you. That's not what his job was. If you're a Christian, I know a lot about that. A lot of people won't agree with me on the historical side of it, but he was an example. Do what's right regardless of consequences, and I think that's the lesson here. So I don't see a panacea or a quick fix, guys. I don't. I wish I could say I do, but I don't.
Well,
so that's my spiel.
Well, it's only been 2,000 years, but the reason why I wanted to say that is because this is a conversation here that we're having, and this is just the beginning, but it could be very productive. What we have, and before we go any further, just to show balance, we're not trying to beat up on Israeli people. And this is what we always get in the mindset of having a villain and bad guy. But the Israeli people, the people who live in Israel, absolutely despise Netanyahu. So while we're having this conversation, to be fair, please understand that the people who live in Israel absolutely despise Netanyahu, and they have just as much control over the actions of their government and the military as we do in America. So I want to make sure that we are being fair and stating that the people. I notice everywhere in the world that I go, the people are fantastic. It's just the systems, but the people everywhere are fantastic. And the people in Israel want Netanyahu out yesterday, and the only way that he can save his political career is always to have war. So I just wanted to just kind of put that out there so people can feel free.
I think that's right. Yeah, we don't. I didn't mean to make anybody feel, um, separated or put aside. But
No,
yeah,
not at all, Roy. You are eloquent, and the reason why I'm following up is because for anyone who wants to try to come in and try to make it seem like you're anti this or we're saying anti-Semitic things, I want it to be stated and be made very clear that it is not the people. The people are never the problem. The systems, these universal systems that work together. I'm gonna land my
talk about anti-Semitism. If I can throw this in, if people really study the Old Testament, the most anti-Semitic being in the Old Testament is their own God. I don't know if you realize that or not. He was constantly chopping them up and dicing them and slicing them and throwing them out. And, I mean, talk about anti-Semitism. I mean, what did he do at the situation at the base of Mount Sinai or Horeb, depending upon how you look at it? When they kind of strayed and built that calf, which actually meant something else than what most people think, but that's another issue. He killed 10,000 of them. I mean, talk about anti-Semitism. Moses had to beg for their lives. As a matter of fact, he said, if you remember the story, he said, what are they going to say if the Egyptians, if you kill all these, because God was saying all of them, and make his covenant only with Moses. Now, this is the storyline, okay? I'm not saying this is the actual way it happened. Their own storyline. God was going to kill him. What an anti-Semite he was. So, I mean, what it is, it's again, it's your frame of reference. And, the Palestinians are Semitic. And I'm not going to get into the DNA situation on it, but they definitely worship, or they're involved in a genealogical line that goes back the same way as the Jews say they do. Of course, the Jews are only one tribe out of 12, too. So that's another issue. But the Palestinians. If you're going to talk about anti-Semitism, it seems like to me that, and I know they place themselves in this regard. I know you're trying to safeguard the people who practice Judaism, but they have a couple of things in the Talmud and the Torah that are a problem. And one of those is called cherem. I don't know if you're aware of that. And it has to do with the elimination of Amalek and Edom, Esau, and killing everything, men, women, and children, only because they think God told them to. And that's why I covered the other night here. By the way, if you don't know, I'm very loquacious. So I apologize for that, but it's just kind of the way I am. As I said the other night, the situation with I kind of lost my train of thought there. Sorry. Probably a good thing. Let somebody else talk.
Okay, so I'm just looking at the chats. So I'm looking at the chats. I believe Miss Paul Sophia, you wanted to go ahead, unmute your mic, please. You can go ahead and speak if you don't mind. Is it Sophia Paul or Paul Sophia?
No, it's Paul Sophia. How you guys doing?
Okay, I do apologize, Paul Sophia.
Oh,
Go
you're
ahead,
fine.
brother. Go ahead,
No,
Landry.
you're
Go ahead, do
fine.
your thing.
No, number one, I want to say I've been a follower of Roy's for a long time. YouTube. He's very, very intelligent man, and what he has to offer. I mean, the history he looks into is mind-boggling. I could never do what he does. But what he just said, as far as the example, he's spot on, because the Christians, and I'm not of religion, by the way. The Christians think that Christ left it all on the cross, just like so we can keep on living in sin. We don't have to do anything more because we believe that Christ died on the cross for our sins. We can keep on rolling. The whole problem is they disregard the covenant. And Roy can disagree or chime in or agree. I was woke up in 2020. I was a very political guy back, didn't start voting until 2008. But I was a Trumper. And when 2020 rolled around, March in specific, I was given a vision, which was a very spiritual vision. And I woke up. Actually, I didn't know if it was a dream or a vision. And I went to my wife and I said, hey, something's messed up. And I started stocking stuff. And I said, we're going to go into we're going to have a crash. We're going to have all this crazy stuff. We're going to have a system come into place. And in fact, I interacted with Roy several times on X in regards to, I think, DeSantis and Trump. Because, I'm a conservative, number one. Not number one, I'm a spiritual guy, number one. But back then, I was a political guy. And it's all an act. These politicians, whether it be Netanyahu, Trump, Biden, they're all placed there for a reason. So the divisiveness is all by design from number one, Satan. These people are all appointed. Okay, they're not elected. They're selected to do a job. And that's why we have sports. That's why we have religions. That's why we have entertainers. Number one, the entertainers in the sports is to keep us all like, oh, look at this. And people are they're not tuned into what's really, really going on. And so it's so important to be chimed out of the BS, what's being filled down our throats. I got rid of everything in 2020. TV, lottery tickets, MMA. I stopped watching all that crap because of that vision or dream. I can't even tell you what it was. But I know the Holy Father woke me up through the Holy Spirit. And so I've been a studier of the Bible since. And I've gone into the Septuagint. I've gone to the Dead Sea Scrolls. Now, history, as far as Roy's concerned, I can't hold a candle to the gentleman. No way. But until you've been touched by the Holy Spirit, man causes all the bullshit. That's a fact. And that's what we're seeing going on right now. You're seeing what's happening. We're going to see a crash. We're going to see a dollar go away. If people can't see that right now, God help you. But it's a scary situation. And I talk to my son quite often. He's 37. I'll be 63 in a couple of months. And, I told him back in 2020, back when I went through this, and, he had his new wife with him on a speakerphone. I told him what's coming down, and she's freaking out. And he says, Dad, you got to count. No, son, this is the deal. And I actually had a conversation with him this morning about an hour. He was on the road. And I said, son, do you remember what we spoke about back? He says, yeah, Dad. And I said, do you think that God picked me because I'm something special? I said, son, man, I was a very wicked man. very, very wicked. I was a whore. I was all these. I did some bad things in my life. But when God woke me up, it's like, and then I started reading and learning. It's like I've got to warn others of what's coming. Because if I don't, guess what? The blood is on my hands. And I know Roy knows what I'm talking about. If you don't warn others in Scripture, and I do believe it's in the Old Testament, Roy. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I know a lot of Scripture by heart, but again, I know what happened to me then and there, and my wife would vouch for me, and I'm telling you. But yeah, the divisiveness is man. So politics won't save us. None of these men, none of this flesh out here is going to save us, folks. We're either on the side of right or wrong. That's the bottom line. And I'm going to leave it open to Roy on this one. Go for it, Roy. I mean, just please. And thank you for the time for allowing me to speak, by the way.
Oh, you're more than welcome, Paul. Thank you so much for sharing. And I kind of, I'm gonna let Roy do its thing, but I wanted to acknowledge your spiritual experience first, because I just want you to know that March 12th, 2020, I was in Africa, Ghana specifically. Myself and my husband were there in Africa because we were meeting with the different African governments to offer our vision program, because my husband's an inventor and he's invented something that will fix preventable blindness. And over in Africa, like your places like Niger, they have like very large albino populations who have very poor vision. So this was an ideal situation, and we were already getting the whispers about COVID and this thing going around and everything. But nothing was like in stone yet about what was going to happen. And Santana and myself were at lunch, and we were literally looking at Airbnbs because we were going to just stay in Africa until whatever blew over, because Africa's amazing, and we were going to start working. So I'm sitting there at lunch and I just froze, and it was like a movie film that I saw. And I told Santana, I said, we can't stay here. They're going to do something in Africa. Because I think at that time, Italy and Spain were getting hit pretty hard. And I said, if they're doing this in Italy and Spain, we know they're going to hit Africa hard. And then also saw that there was going to be an assassination on Trump. And remember, Trump was in office at the time. So when it didn't happen, I kind of didn't think that, anything was going to, I thought maybe I was just paranoid, right? But I saw that Trump was going to have an assassination attempt. I knew he was going to be murdered. I knew it was going to be an attempt. And just FYI, that was totally staged too, by the way, everybody. But back to the conversation, I had a vision that Trump was going to have an assassination attempt. I had a vision that the entire world was going to shut down. And I told my husband that this was the apocalypse. Everything that we knew was not going to be anymore. So it's very crazy to me to hear you say that you got the creator, whoever is running this, was sending messages to a lot of people at the same time. That's pretty amazing, because it happened to me on March 12th, 2020. So I just wanted to just basically confirm what you were saying, that a lot of us got a message. A lot of us did get a call. Roy even spoke earlier when he was a young boy, and he would say that, he just contacts God directly, because we all are connected to God. And that's why the idea of anybody being favored or anything is very manipulative, because I am under the belief system that if you made it here, if you made it through that Stargate, you were supposed to be here. And ye are gods, and God wanted you to be here. If you made it here, you wouldn't be here. Just because your mom and dad had intercourse and did the physical component of bringing life here, that doesn't mean anything. We know that people get pregnant all the time, but the baby doesn't always make it here. That light, when that baby takes that first breath, that's all God. So, thank you for sharing that. And Roy, if you have anything you want to add to what Paul said, please feel free.
Um, Actually, I think that what you just said kind of, explains, I think, what my whole point has been, and that is that uh, God deals with us individually, and no matter how you view that entity, that deity, uh, He's dealing with you personally, and sometimes, like Paul said, he just had to put away all of his preconceived notions, all of his things that he had been taught um, in the institutions, uh, and just go one on one. And that's a scary thing to do, because often you end up not having any, what you think, you don't have any support group to fall back on. Of course, that's really the reason for people getting together and talking about experiences like we are doing here. Um, Talking about Paul's experience, talking about yours, I know other people here that have had similar experiences. We're not here to say, no, that couldn't happen, that was a demon. That's the common response by people that have a dogma or a bias that they're trying to protect. That if you have an experience that doesn't quite match up to what they think it should have been, then it's a demon that did it to you. I'm not saying there aren't demons. I'm just saying that people can't judge other people's experiences. I'll put it a different way. Um, just because someone's had an experience doesn't mean that I am responsible for what they say. Uh, that's a pretty heady concept, because it kind of goes against the whole idea of, especially in the Christian realm, of testimony. You say, well, whatever your testimony is going to be, well, that's fine. That's your testimony, but I'm under no obligation to follow that. My responsibility is to have my own experience, and hopefully it'll be a good experience, and not something that leads me astray. But again, that's part of the experience, trying to choose. It's what's in your heart that matters. Uh, I think you're aware, Ariel, that you know I had an experience back quite a number of years ago, and and I'm only bringing this up because just because God comes to you doesn't mean, as Paul said, that you're a good person, and that He's telling you, "Hey, yeah, I'm talking to you because you're all right, and I approve of you, and you're going to go all the way, and all that." Uh, Quite often, it's just the opposite. What I got was a spanking. And that's how you know it was the real deal. I got a spanking. I didn't get some smooth talking entity that was trying to puff up my pride and to say that I was something special. The mere fact that I heard the voice and what he said was special, but regardless, it was like a dad, taking out the paddleboard and letting me have it on the rear end a couple of times. So that's how you know it's the real deal, when something goes that way. Now, women have a different experience, and I don't want to go down that road too far, but the way God deals with men and the way He deals with women is quite a bit different. And some people might say that's sexist, but I'm not in charge of that. He is.
Nope, it's
So
it's not sexist at all. And I mean, it's known. I mean, for anyone who wants to debate it, I mean, they can come up and do it if they like. But the woman is intuitive. We have the intuition. I mean, it's just the truth of it all. It's the reason that we carry the children. So it's not sexist at all. I want us to be able to just have a conversation and not even have to think about those kind of terms, because those are also their tools, right? That they use to make us not talk about homosexuality, to make us not talk about the things that are not okay, that people say that they're practicing certain religions or ideals, and we need to be able to call it out and say, hey, no, that's not correct. So please feel free.
And I want to add something, just some food for thought, and it's kind of a question and a statement at the same time. Is it possible? Could we just not talk about religion, period? And what I mean by that is, would it be possible for all of us to have our personal relationship with our Creator and somehow make it through this? Because I feel like we can get pretty far in conversations. We're right now, we're in a conversation, we're in a group right now with a lot of diverse lifestyles, sexes, religions, and minds, and everything. And this conversation, thus far, I think is very productive. No one's feelings been hurt, no one's been disrespected. But every time when we start getting into the religion thing, there goes the fight. What happens if we people decide that, you know what, let's make our religion our private matter? You know, like, can we just can that is that feasible? Do you think that's feasible, that we could say, you know what, enough with these labels? Can we, who I worship and believe, can I keep that to myself? And can we just come upon an agreed upon standard that goes over all religions, so we don't have to bring religion into it? Now, I know it sounds naive, okay? And I know it may sound like a naive question, but I'm wondering, would it be that hard for us to be able to have discussions? Because, you know, it's like whenever you bring in religion, you know it's always going to be a fight. What if we just had discussions about matters that are taking place that that we don't have to bring religion into? Could we come to a real understanding? I mean, I know it's a naive question, but does that make any sense to anyone?
I think I'm going to give somebody else a chance to respond to that, because I've been talking so much. Uh, Ariel, if you see somebody else on there that would like to address that,
Sure.
it's not that I won't, but I kind of want to make sure that everybody is being able
Fair
to
and balanced.
contribute.
No,
Yeah.
I appreciate the balance. And my very, very good friend V, and she just came up, and it is London time, so she must have something to say. How are you, my love?
I'm very well, thank you very much. It's such a lovely conversation that we're having here, and I'm pleased that everyone is talking peacefully here, although we're talking about religion. So I was expecting some sort of clash, but that didn't happen. Thank God for that. And I'm glad Santana just interfered and said, just can we ignore religion, because it's a personal practice and people can be sitting at home and basically worshiping whether they worshiping. So nobody's watching and nobody's judging. When the matter comes outside the house or comes outside the person, then it will become a clash and it will become an issue, because always like advertising for spirituality, to activate your own spirituality. We don't get involved like how you're going to activate your own spirituality, because this is matter between you and your own Creator. Nobody's going to be judged in groups. Everybody will be judged in person, individually. So whatever happens in your life and whatever happens in my life, it is my own matter, it's my own understanding. My capability and your capability will be different, and my understanding and your understanding will be different. However, when it comes to subject to talking about religion and talking about politics, like Paul was mentioning before, it creates divisions between people. And at the moment, we cannot afford any divisions, because matter, it becomes really urgent. The matter becomes urgent because we as a human being, we've been targeted. Our humanity is being targeted. Our moral is being targeted. It's not enough that our children is being targeted biologically. We have been vaccinated with things that we don't even understand what are these things. So you have to understand the matter is beyond religion. We all understand the original message is being changed, whether it's Christianity, whether it's Judaism, whether it's Muslims. Humans' translation to religion is always for their own benefits. So we cannot rely on human beings' translations, and those people who had connection with spiritual connections with the Creator, they have gone, like the prophets, like the messiahs, like all that is being gone, that we are left alone in this world. There is no other connections with divine. So now we have to just drift ourselves away from those group of people who trying to manipulate the religion to deliver some sort of personal gain, like we've seen in the Santana just mentioned the satanic system. Some people call it matrix system, some people call it whatever you call it. You have to understand that there is a system that is controlling the world and is trying to manipulate the human being, whether it is through power, through money, through whatever. Even if you don't believe it, just bear in mind 1%, that's what I'm telling you, it is the truth. You have to look at the things the way they are. Is clearly there is a moral war on human being. Clearly there is moral war in the fact that they will actually tell you what is your freedom. They will say, this is your freedom. This is democracy. You have not chosen this democracy. They've chosen for you, and they tell you this is your democracy. They even choose the fashion in the market for you to wear. They tell you this is in fashion, that you have to wear that particular product. Then you are a fashionable person. So they have decided what for you, what to eat, what to wear, what TV program to watch, what is the most. They have even chose the narratives that the conversations that you're having with your friends, what kind of word to use, because they're trying to control everything. That's I'm trying to tell you. The matter is more than my religion and your religion. Whatever religion you believe in, it is your own personal choice. But the matter is now for humanity to actually realize there is a moral war on us. There is a biological war on us. There is a military war on us. How do you know that those human beings who are controlling and the human form, they're controlling the economic, the world economy? How much are you sure they have humanity? How much are you sure? I mean, they cannot have humanity because you see amount of blood, you see amount of starvations. I mean, the millionaires around the world, if they donate just a little bit of their own money, they will actually save so many children from starvation, but they don't do that. Why? Have you ever asked yourself that question? They rather keep that money for themselves. Well, you have to understand that there is something abusive happening to me, to you, whether it's moral abuse, whether it's biological abuse, whether it's economical abuse. We have to wake up. It is in time now or never. Otherwise, the humanity will be replaced with something else, with a robot, with things that you don't even know that what's happening. Are these human beings who are in charge? Are they really in charge? Are they really human being? We don't know. But with spirituality, with understanding, coming out of the materialism life, coming out of the materialistic life, rather than me buying the latest phone, rather than me watching and being numbed by this program, X Factor or whatever, sit down with myself and just have a conversation with myself. They even tell you, even if you sit down with yourself and have a conversation with yourself, you are depressed. You're not depressed. You're just having a conversation with yourself. You're not a depressed person. You're just trying to reflect things, review things in your life. So they even put you in that position when you are sitting down with yourself and reflecting things. They will tell you, you're spending too much time alone, so you must have a problem. You're not having any problems. They have made your life so materialistic that you work from 8 o'clock to 8 o'clock, and by the time you come back home, you're tired. You don't even have time to reflect on your day. If this is not slavery, what is slavery? If this is not control, what is control? I'm just glad we're having these conversations, and I'm glad Satana said what is matter is not religion. What matter is humanity and is spiritual things that moving us away from the material. They're trying to put us in. They're trying to create human being that is materialistic enough to enslave and sell what is spiritual inside, to gain a mobile phone, to gain the latest car, to get the luxury, the material things that you're not going to take to the next life. You're not going to benefit from spiritually. So I just wanted to add that on to what you said, and I just wish everybody the luck, and I hope that I've delivered the message the way I wanted to say. So thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Vian. Always a pleasure. And yes, you said that so eloquently, and such an honor to always have you on the stage with me, because um, you know better than anyone, um, then that your faith and all of these things can be antagonized, and you knew that that is not the real problem here. The real problem is, how can we exist with each other? Are you a good person spiritually? Because that's what it basically boils down to. Because when Santana was asking the question, is it positive? I mean, is it possible for us to eliminate religion out of our discussions? And, as much as I want to say yes, the problem always comes back to the system throws us back into these religious type of discussions, right? Because, I mean, just look at Trump. Trump just signed some sort of executive order about anti-Semitic, and, and it's like, well, that's just one religion, that, you are saying is hands off. I'd say that is bias in so many ways. And then you have to go out every day and you have to work with a clerk that may feel some kind of way because of something that you're wearing, or something that you're playing that represents something that you believe in. And now you have a system that can arrest you if you have a different type of view. And it's like the system continuously adds religion into the mix of everything. So it seeps into the community of where we're dealing with everyday things, where we have to interact with each other, where they still get to pull their strings. And that is, the end. We're on the same mission. We are trying to find a way for everyone to look inside of themselves and say, hey, you're not just a person, you're a woman, you're a man, that's a child. Can we deal with each other accordingly? Because you are a woman, Santana is a man, Roy is a man, I'm a woman, and my children are children. And why can't we just respect those boundaries? Because we are man, we are here, we have to live together. Everybody thinks that this opportunistic mentality is beneficial for themselves, and it may be temporarily
Yeah,
something.
I just wanted to add one thing to what you said. It was really,
Sure.
really important. Have you ever seen me pray 5 times a day? You don't see me pray 5 times a day, right?
I
You
do
don't,
not.
because
I
what
do not.
exactly? I pray 5 times a day. You never see it because it doesn't affect you. It doesn't have an effect on you. But if I speak with you in a nasty way, or if I do something in action towards you, it will affect you. So what is important is my moral. It is what I do. It is not what I practice. You go into church every Sunday. It doesn't affect me. It is between you and your Lord. This is not something that involves me. To go into a synagogue, it doesn't affect me. But you throwing bomb on people and children, that affects me. So this is what we are talking about here. We're talking about moral people. We're talking about human morality. What is we talking about is very, very true. It is that you're saying there is limit. You have to understand that there is a children, there is a woman, there is a man, there is irrespective of why did we come up with UN after World War II if we cannot even use it? If we are carpet bombing another country and finding excuses to do that, to do so. So why did we come up with UN? Was it just an excuse to legit the bombing, or just saying, is this is just this a room that where all the nations goes there to take order from the satanic system, or what is it exactly? If we cannot actually, if the UN cannot actually protect me and you from vaccination, we don't even know what we being vaccinated with. You see what I mean? So stuff like this, people need to understand that unity is very, very important. Just put your different society now, the religion, the politics, whatever, that unity is required, because together we are stronger. They are less, we are more. So yes, I agree with you, and that's what I wanted to add on.
Thank you. And what you were just saying, that we have to deal with each other, and we're not conflicting our ideals on each other. When me and Ian talk, we're not trying to convince each other of anything, of anybody's belief system or anything like that. But the system gets involved and they start to implement that aspect of decision making. We're the ones who are being slaughtered. Your children are the ones that are being slaughtered. So it's like, when are we going to realize that if we don't start treating each other the right way, they're just going to take over everything. And that's what they want to do anyway. That's their sole purpose. These people are colonizers. Their whole brain, that mindset, these bloodlines that are actually doing this, they are not even made from the same thing that we are. I mean, I'm not going to go complete David Icke on you, but I'm just saying that there is something else built in their genetic coding that has no qualms about going to a foreign land they've never ever been to and say, I am going to slaughter everything there and take over everything and then create my own world, even though it was civilizations and people inhabiting everything, and there were systems, there were buildings, it was infrastructure there. I don't care. So what, I don't know what it's going to take. I really, honestly, in my heart, believe that COVID was going to be it. And hi, hey Santos, I'm glad you're here to listen. And if you want a mic, please, just request it. But everybody say happy birthday to my very good friend Santos. Today is his. We are so grateful that he has been here for 62 years. He has done amazing work. And he has been trying to enlighten people for more than 13 years with his studies and everything. And he's an amazing musician as well. Oh, wait a minute. Here we go. Here's Santana.
And hey, guys, I'm trying to cook here, so forgive me. Hopefully, Santos will speak in this space, because Santos is the creator of syncretism, and it kind of fixes the problem with the different religions, because I'm not trying to harp on the religions, because that's not what I'm trying to harp on, but the approach that Santos is taking, and like the approach that VN are taking is taking. Forgive me, my Baltimore vernacular. I went to Baltimore City Public Schools, so forgive my grammar. But the solution and the approach Santos and VN are taking does not offend anyone. It doesn't offend anyone. I'm not sure where we are in this world, but I have to process that the word woman, word baby, the word man, the word child has somehow taken a back seat to what someone proclaims as their religion. And that's a big problem. And they've used religion to tear us apart. Well, we see what the movements are and what the tricks that they're playing are. So why don't we just use their playbook and do it in reverse? And of course, this is a small space and this is just a conversation. But couldn't we do that wouldn't it be just as simple and just as easy to do the exact same tactic they're using against us, against them? Because it's all coming out. But I would love for my dear friend Santos Bonacci to speak on syncretism if he, I would love if he feels up to it. But what we're talking about, and it offends no one. It does not discriminate against any religion. It offends no one. And like the spirituality, it's about bringing us back to ourselves and not to get to the Bible and the Christ. But the Bible said that Jesus didn't come here to save us. He came here to be an example and to remind us of who we truly are. Jesus came here as a reminder to let us know who we truly are, and ye are gods. And the kingdom of heaven exists within you. It exists within you. All of us have a piece of the divine. So the trick that was played against humanity was they tricked all of us to go outside of ourselves to look for some spook in the sky. When that divine spark, that light exists in all of us. And I'm not saying it, Jesus said it. But I'm gonna land my plane there. I'm hopefully Mr. Bonacci would like to speak, and I'll go ahead and whoever talk. I gotta go and check on the chicken. Hold tight, please. If anyone else want to grab a mic, please feel free. I gotta check on the food.
Ariel, I just want to thank you for giving me the mic. I'll go down because it is really late in the UK. I just want to say one more thing before I leave. Now in the UK, they're trying basically to cancel off the Easter celebration in the schools under excuse of is offending other people's religion, which is ridiculous. So this is part of the plan to make, clash people with each other, and also to make their satanic plans more successful by eliminating religion and people's belief, basically. So this is something I've sent you onto your DM if you want to check it out. So I just want to leave everybody in peace, and please keep the good works up. And it was really nice to meet you all. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Ian. As always, I'm very happy that you even gave us a little bit of time, because I know it's super late over there in the UK. So thank you. But to basically continue the conversation, Roy, did you want to add anything to what's been said so far?
Well, I think Santana said kind of what I was talking about, that when we, looking and seeing that we're all a part of God, part of His creation. What the way he said it was just a different way than what I had mentioned. That we're manifestly the construct code of this God. When you look into somebody's face, you actually see that design, that system, that construct code, as I was calling it. But I will say, we might be able to do that on our level. But I'm not so sure it's unless the spirit, that spirit descends upon everyone in mankind, it's not going to be accomplished. And even then, it would, I think, depend on free agency, because that's really, like I said before, is what it's about. What are you going to do with the tools that you have? Are you going to deal with them righteously or unrighteously? Are you going to steal from your fellow man, or are you going to help him get along? And I just want to point out, and I know this is going to sound somewhat religious, but I think there's a reason why, even though there are some religions that are very upset with the founders of the United States, the way that they proceeded, thinking that they were, and not incorrectly, that they were Masons, some of them. I understand that. But I just want to mention a couple of things historically to show you how difficult this will actually be and why this is a school to see how we will individually react to these things. And the way we've been talking here right now is exactly the way it should be, that we don't hold anything against anybody else who's just trying to make their way and understand it at their level. But there was something that happened during the second, just prior to the second term of Thomas Jefferson, and the Christian ministers came to Thomas Jefferson and insisted that he make Christianity the national religion, and he refused. And as a result of that, he had big problems. He wasn't demanding any kind of religious alliance like we aren't here. But they, the Christian ministers, were demanding it. And he finally got through it, but it wasn't easy. The other one's not historical. It's actually from Lord of the Rings. You might remember that the King Aragorn, he goes into the king of Rohan, and the king of Rohan is all withered up because he's under a spell. And and Gandalf finally gets the king of Rohan out from underneath the spell, and Aragorn's trying to explain to the king of Rohan, hey, you know, we've got a problem. The orcs are coming. These really bad dudes. And the king says, well, we'll just kind of let it go. We're not going to go to war. And Aragorn told him something, and he said, war is upon you, whether you want it to be or not. What do we do with that? And then finally, again, I hate to bring this up, but it's just a fact. I'm very, very close to a lot of Jews. I'll say it again, I'm not a Jew myself, but I'm very close to a lot of Jews, and I have contacts with Jews on X, as you probably are aware, Ariel, and those who follow me. And I understand where they are. I understand their concepts. I understand their history. I understand their culture, their society, their language, a lot of things about them. But it's in their texts that they are the supremacists in the world, that they, by their nature, have a right to rule over the rest of mankind. And in fact, to destroy anyone who's not one of them. I hate bringing that up because it sounds divisive, but I'm not the one calling for that. It's in their own texts. The Torah, the Tanakh, and a number of places, and even in some of the Kabbalistic writings, which I could get into quite deep. So you're going to have these small groups like what we're doing here, which would be called an ecclesia, a community, a group of people of like-mindedness, but you're still going to have that opposition from those who don't want to give up that power or that recognition of their supremacy. Even in Islam, as people know, and I've talked about the origins of Islam, and it gets Islamic people upset, but it's a fact of the matter that they came about through the putting together of Messianic Judaism, Messianic Christianity, and the Talmud. That's why there are so many similarities between Noahide laws and Sharia law. So what do we do with that? Yeah, we might want to be friendly neighbors amongst ourselves, but what are we going to do when someone comes in and says, you have to convert, I'm going to cut your head off? Do you think that by talking to them and trying to reason with them and saying that they're God's children just like you are, that's going to change what happens? How do we get them to change their point of view on that? I don't think that's possible because, as I said at the very beginning of this is an individual school. We're here to find out what we're going to do. We're not here to get the rest of the world to do what we think they should do, then we would be no better than they are. So it's a very, very tricky situation. But I would just caution everybody that it sounds like a real easy thing to get everybody to talk on the same page and to give a lot of leeway to other people's opinions and all that. We certainly do. All of us here are showing that we do that. But we're kidding ourselves if we think that even those who aren't world rulers, even those people, as I've just explained, the Christians that came to Jefferson and the situation and the Tanakh and the Talmud and the Kabbalistic text of the Jews, that they have a right and in fact a duty to rule the world and to eliminate you if you don't go along with it. So I think we have to, again, I'm going to go back and just say it one last time, and then I'll let somebody else talk. We're the ones that are being tested here. Individually, what we will do, how we will manage our lives, and how we will set the example. And unfortunately, and I don't like this, believe me, I don't want anybody to be executed like Jesus was, or like, any number of the martyrs you want to talk about. I don't want to see that. But that's the individual stand that happens in this place. And so hopefully we can be with each other and talk about these things. If somebody came on here and said that they believe that that God is a little yellow dog in Missouri wagging its tail running down the canal road, that's God. Okay, that's fine. If that's what you want to believe, I'm not going to challenge that. Unlike some people who might convert a person, but by the same token, I don't want them to force me to have to accept that worldview. But what if they do? What if by the point of a sword or a gun, you don't call that dog God, we're going to kill you? What are you going to do then? And we're at that point. This world has been at that point for a long time. So that's why I go back. I don't think you're going to get worldwide consensus with every human being to do what you wonderful people are talking about here. You're just going to have to carry that, and it's a cross, it's a burden. You're going to have to carry that individually and say that you're going to do the right thing regardless. And that's all I'll say about it.
And the thing about it is, it's like we can look at the different religions and say that we can worry about not just the elites of using that type of power, but we can just think about just the common folk deciding that they want to jump out there and do something like that. And I feel like we're kind of dealing with an inferior and superior role in regards to the common man. I think that that's what we're dealing with every day. I mean, just look at racism. Even though I know that racism is just a tool, it's not real, and it was literally created by the people, the powers that be, as a tool for the common man, because they don't participate in it, because they're all related and they're all from all over the world, and so they're all connected. But it is a very effective tool that we have to deal with all the time. And I guess for I'm a Black American who lived in an urban city. I'm from Baltimore, and Roy is also from Maryland as well. Different sides of the state, but I'm like I said, I'm a Black woman. My husband's a Black man, and we have had to deal with just ridiculous stuff just because we are dealing with people who want to consider themselves superior to us just because of our race. And we're not going to say color of our skin, because I am probably whiter than every white person on this space right now, but I am classified as a Black woman. So it is literally just a race, a hair texture that we're dealing with. And we haven't even been able to get past that. And that is so low hanging fruit. It's such a low frequency, but we're still dealing with that. We're dealing with it so much that Black Lives Matters was able to be created. That's how much we're dealing with the fake racism, because now because you understand that they capitalize off of something that's not real, but the common man who is uneducated and is not eloquent at all will play into all of those things. And and it always turns into something political, and it's always in superior and inferior role that we're dealing with. And I don't know how to introduce that conversation. And with people, it's hard to even have an honest conversation with a white person and me being a Black person, because somebody's always holding something back. Well, I'm never holding anything back, but I don't know, white people seem to typically be uncomfortable with even having those conversations. Like, why do you think that is, Roy? I mean, because it's something that's the elephant in the room that, I mean, we all know is a real thing in America. What do you think that's about?
Well, I think it just goes back to what you said. It's, division. If you follow the biblical story, or you can even go to Gilgamesh, or you can go to, any number of other things, those attempts to divide the people are right there at the beginning of, the whole story. Actually, according to the book of Genesis, the very first effort at division was to separate the man from the woman, right? I mean, I'm talking about the garden where the serpent comes in and, tells Eve, hey, you can be like God if you do this. And so it was to pull the woman away from the man, break up that unit. A lot of people don't see it that way, but that's really what was going on there. And I won't go into any details as to why, but we see that right from the start. So differences aren't celebrated. I don't know if you heard me say, Ariel, on that night that I was giving the stream there on X that you all wanted to talk about. I was saying that we have these. It's more important to look at our similarities, where we're from, how we're all related, rather than breaking down to these divisions. But then again, I got to look at the practical side of it, like I said a few minutes ago, and say there are people that are going to bring those up. The people of this group might be able to resist it, but that doesn't mean, for instance, you're walking down the street one day and somebody doesn't like it because of who you are or what you are, and they decide to do you harm. That's the nature of this world, and again, I don't know what the resolution of that is, unless God, at some point in time, and there we are, religion again. Let's just say mankind gets a download, that finally opens up their consciousness to the point where they understand this unification that we actually have, this unity. But I don't know. That could interfere with free agency too, and it seems like that's a major component of our experience here. So anyway, Ariel, I'm sorry I'm so verbose, but we're struggling with some questions here that I don't think, just in the group that we have here. I mean, we haven't heard everybody talk here, but I don't think there's going to be anybody that comes on that has the final solution. That's a horrible word. I shouldn't use. That's a bad phrase.
No, it's okay. It's okay, because and I'm not even. And Eric, I'm gonna get to you. I want to hear what you have to say as well. But the purpose of me wanting to even have the discussion is just, it's like a beginning. Like, to discuss things that people have. It seems like groups have a very difficult time. Like, the conversation that we're having right now, people are fighting like tooth and nail in other spaces right now that are talking about all of the same topics. But but for some reason, it always goes completely chaotic. So I am basically, this space is basically an experiment because I mean, this is just one all big, huge experiment. As you've been saying throughout this space, I believe I am under the same belief that this is a huge experiment that we're all involved in. But this space is an experiment to show that people from all over the world, all different cultures, all different religions, all different races can sit in a space and have an intellectual conversation about what's going on. And do we even really have any problems? You know, just do regular people really have any issues? And I think that this is just the beginning of the possibility of finding a solution, because God knows I've racked my brain over for years trying to come up with a solution. I don't even think that I'm big enough to even get the solution. But I do think that each spirit that God brings here is instrumental in finding what that solution is. And I believe that the solution is Christ consciousness. And I do believe that that is in this right now. And I want to thank everyone who is here, and the fact that this space has been totally respectful, totally poised. No one, I haven't been offended yet. I hope no one else has been, but no one else has seemed to verbalize that they have been. But before I keep going, Eric, go ahead and jump in because I see you got something to say. Please, the floor is yours.
It's all good. Hello, you guys hear me okay?
Yep, loud and clear.
All right. Hey, Roy, just want to say hi to you, bud. I'm your West Virginia hillbilly trucker, talking to you earlier today. And I
Oh
just want to
yeah,
thank,
sure.
I just want to just thank you for everything, man. I've been listening to you for about 7 to 8 years solid. Found you on YouTube, just pretty much like everybody else. But you have taught me to look outside the box, so to speak. And because I was brought up pretty I want to say I don't know how I could say this. I was brought up pretty hardcore Christian most of my life, and I never could really get my finger on anything. And then I got a download, as I want to put it, like Paul did. Paul, I'm sorry if I can't hear it. It's Paul Sophia. I got my download when Warp Speed hit. And right after Warp Speed hit, I remember watching you put up a video about the Mark of the Beast. And you broke it down. And I have never seen anything so incredible my entire life, because I was always taught that the Mark of the Beast was a singularity, pretty much. Like it was this, cut and dry. That's it. You're getting it. You're burning in hell. And I'm like, okay, but in this technology world that we live in and everything else, like that just wasn't jiving with me. And your video that taught me to break everything down about the Mark of the Beast, I'm like, now this sounds like it's more of like a crumb off of a loaf of bread, a little piece off of something much bigger. And like, how many crumbs of this piece of bread does it take to make up the whole entire loaf? And I've always kind of used that allegory to like explain it to people, because they're like, "Oh no, it's this. Oh no, it's that. Oh no, it's the jab." And I've gotten like all kinds of arguments about it, and frankly, I don't know either. But the point I'm trying to make is that you taught me to look so much deeper than what was just on the surface level. And I just want to say to you, sir, thank you very much. And I live here in Morgantown, West Virginia, most of my entire life. And I drive a dump truck here. I haul stone to the oil fields. I do my little part in the little cog to keep the lights on. And I just love everything. And I've grown up with one of my best friends that I grew up when I was 7 years old, when they were making fun of him and his parents for eating cats because he was from Iraq and he's a Muslim. And mind you, I was brought up hardcore Christian, so technically, that was not supposed to jive. Well, I hate to tell you this, but it's jiving to this very day. So, when people say that, oh, it's so hard for, other cultures to get along, horseshit. Horseshit. I get along with them, they get along with me. We're still best friends to this very day. Do we agree? No. We don't agree on everything. You know, growing up with different colored people in my area, in West Virginia, it is very. Listen, you're in Morgantown, you're in a college town, it's pretty diverse. You go 30 minutes south, you go 30 minutes north, it's a little bit of a different story. And I've run into so many different kind of characters that just literally just disgust me, because it's not that they disgust me, it's just how they talk about each other. How we all talk about each other just disgusts me. And I was brought up from a very young age that we're all created in the image of God. Are we not? I mean, depending on who your God is, it don't, like, we're trying to stay out of this whole religion thing, but we're all created equal in the image of God is the only way I can really explain it. And for that to even have any kind of a chance in this world, in this experiment that we're in, we all we all have to be humble, and we all have to put aside our flesh, which is supposedly sin and death. It is how the Bible was taught to me. And of course, Roy, you've taught me to look outside the box and look at the different meanings and everything. So, it is a possibility that we all can get along. But like you were just saying earlier, Roy, it's highly probable, not probable that we will. Just looking at everything else that's been going on in the world, yes, in this group, I'm sure we're all like-minded individuals, and we all have similar beliefs that different to a totality of everything else. But in the core of it, we all have this urge to want to know. We want to know the truth. We want to know the truth. And I asked the Most High, my Most High, I want to know no matter the cost. I want to know no matter what. Whatever that costs me, even if it costs me my life, I want to know the truth. I want to know why I'm here. I want to know what's going on. I want to know why, what's, somebody was saying earlier about, these bloodlines. Red and blue bloods. Roy, you taught me about a lot of that back in the day too. And that, I was pretty much understanding that Adam was red blood, and or Eve and Adam were red bloods, and then everybody else, whatever that is the blue bloods. And like Cain was a blue blood, or Cain means cyan, which is blue, or so, and Cain is the evil side. And a lot of these people that are in charge of running this place, from what I see, are blue bloods. And that's kind of like what's kind of going on now, I think. I sent you a little video clip in one of the conversations we were having about how Trump was calling himself the light of the world. I about wrecked my truck. I literally about wrecked my truck. I'm like, are you serious right now? Are you absolutely serious? You literally pretty much all about call yourself the light of the world. And I had people come up to me recently, Roy, and tell me, I can't wait for Donald Trump to be a dictator so he can just get these leftists right out of here. You want to talk about an Antichrist meter going off? Pittsburgh could have heard it. And I was like, this is the kind of stuff that a lot of people, most of us grasp it, but a lot of us don't. And that's going to be a big problem come in the future. It's going to be a really big problem. I mean, I've seen a lot of people just, I was a Trumper early on, and then when warp speed hit, I was done. When they told us we had to have that to be an essential person to go to work, I have my papers. Z have your papers. No, thank you. No, thank you. And to this very day, I ain't got it. I ain't going to. I just ain't going to. And that's my personal belief. But I just want to jump in here real quick and just say hi to Roy. We've talked a few times over the years in the past, and I just want to thank you for everything that you've done in my life to help me break away from the I don't know. I can't think of the word I'm trying. I've been up since 4 o'clock this morning, Gate and Stone. So please forgive me. But to break free from the I guess the mainstream religion way of thinking, you've taught me to do something that's just much more greater than just that. And I just wanted to thank you for that. And I just really need to get off here because I need to get to bed because I have to get back up at 4 o'clock in the morning and do it all over again. But that's pretty much it. I just want to say that, and you guys have a great evening, and I appreciate you letting me have a little bit of a say.
Well, thank you, Eric. I appreciate that very much.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. And and Eric, you hit on something because you had mentioned something about just want to know the truth, and you're having your preconceived ideals of people because of things that you're hearing. When you said something about the people who uh, um, believed in Islam were eating cats when they came to the place, and it's like, listen, those stigmas stick. They don't just go away. Sigmund Freud literally did a whole study saying that Black people had harder skulls and you could bash them in the head and they wouldn't be affected by it, as if like we were something completely different. What Trump just did with the Haitians, saying that they're eating people's pets, they're eating people's cats and dogs, and it was flat out lies. But these are the things that get instilled inside of the communities to basically infect the people, so they start treating people a certain kind of way. Because I know so many people in Islam that have never eaten a cat, never eaten a cat. I know so many people in China who have never eaten a cat. And, the whole world talks about them being infamous for doing all of these things. In fact, when COVID happened, the reason that they were able to get away with saying that it came from a bat was because of racism, was because they could get to say, oh, Chinese people, they eat anything. Chinese people, and it's just like, what? And and Wuhan is a cosmopolitan area, and but they were able to push those narratives to the people to infect the people with these lies, so they can hurt what's on the ground, because the system can only do but so much where they are. But they count on us to be the Arus. They want us to eat each other. And but thank you for giving your story. I appreciate it very much.
And, and I do have a solution, awesome one, for those who may not have. So this is perfect. We're slaves. I think we all understand that we all know now that all of us are slaves, because if we don't go out and work and produce, we can't pay our bills and we'll live in the street. So we don't really have a choice. We're all slaves. And what we're fighting over the most is power. So I want to give you some really good news that I need you to spread to the world, and you can look and verify for yourself. The gentleman in the country in Zimbabwe by the name of Maxwell Chikumbutso. His name is Maxwell Chikumbutso, and he has developed free energy, 100% free energy. Because there's so many wars taking place, because we're bombing Syria, we're bombing Yemen, and we're bombing Gaza. What no one's telling you about is that Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Zimbabwe, all of them now have the free energy device. I'm going to say this again. Mali, Burkina Faso, Zimbabwe, and Niger have the free energy device where they no longer pay for any energy. They no longer need to put gas in their car. It's here. So we've got things here that are working right now. More than 15 million people are aware of this in Africa. But because we are inundated with the distractions, free energy is already here and it's already being done in 4 separate countries in Africa. His name is Maxwell Chikumbutso. What would happen if us, the people, regardless of the religion, just us, the people, inform our friends, our family members, everyone we know that there's no reason for us to pay for gasoline or electricity anymore? Look them up for yourself. See for yourself that it's already here. His name is Maxwell Chikumbutso. And if you can't spell his name, just Google, put him on YouTube and put in Maxwell Zimbabwe Free Energy. See it for yourself. Free energy is here. We can break this whole damn thing if we know that we ain't got to pay for gas no more. No more light bills. None of that. All that shit is over, but you don't know that it's over. Look for yourself. See it in everybody. That really do a lot of damage to this system. I'll land my plane.
Yeah, I think Monty's coming up with something about that too, with the city in the suitcase. I was watching him the other night. I think he's going to be doing an experiment pretty soon on that as well. Roy, I don't know if you've talked to him about that or not, but sounds like about the same kind of thing I think he's aiming for.
Well, just know it's here. It's already here. It's working. We have it. There's another gentleman by the name of Moses West. He has a water machine that gives people free water. He went to Puerto Rico to give them free clean water, and he went to Flint, Michigan to give the people there clean, free water. So the two things that we need the most and we fight about the most in the world, energy and water, has already been resolved, but we're not talking about it. They're hiding these things. And we should tell everyone in the world that these things are existing. They're here now, and we demand them in America. We demand them in the UK. We demand them in Australia. But we can't demand them if you don't know that they exist, and we're still paying for power. Everyone's power bill is almost doubled. We're all seeing it. Well, everyone's power bill is doubling right now, where there's free energy in Africa right now. It could be right here in America. It could be in the UK. It could be in Australia. It would break the entire thing if we got the word out. And that's just my contribution, that if we knew, if everyone in your community know they wouldn't have to pay for gasoline or power ever again, I guarantee you that they would prefer that than the current state that we're under. And that's what I want to offer. I'm not offering it. I just want to bring to your attention. This is already here.
And I'd like to jump in here and just ask you and Ariel if you would do me a big favor and send me a DM with both of those names and those 4 countries, because I will definitely bring that up publicly.
100%. It is my honor. I've been screaming to the top of my lungs for the past 3 years, explaining to people, hey, we're fighting over oil. We're fighting over water. We're fighting over power. Well, understand that we don't need to fight over that anymore. We don't have to do that. We don't have to pay for power anymore. You buy the device, and the device powers the entire block. It is not, it pulls the frequencies out of the air. You know, the Tesla 369, the Tesla was doing back in the early 1920s, literally it pulls its unlimited energy. You never, ever have to fill your gas tank up again. You never have to ever have a light bill again. And it is in Africa right now. They tried to murder the inventor in America when he came over here. But we are here. So I'm going to send you the information. And if we can let everyone know, hey, this buffoon that's in office talking about drill, baby, drill. Well, we're drilling, baby, drilling. Why are we drilling for oil, a dirty, disgusting, filthy job that destroys the environment, when free, clean energy, unlimited, pure, clean energy is available right now? Can you dig it?
Well, this has been really wonderful. I guess I'll go ahead and check out too. But I want to thank you, Ariel and Santana, for inviting me and everybody here. I've really enjoyed this. As you know, I kind of stopped my live streaming and all of that for various reasons. By the way, not because I was threatened or anything like that, but just like I said at the beginning of this, that I think I've pretty much said everything that that I really needed to up to that time, and just been doing a little bit on X here now and then. But the spaces thing is very interesting, and I'll probably experiment with it a little bit more. So thank you so much for showing me how to do it, Ariel.
No problem, and thank you for doing this and having this conversation, because we've done something that no one else seems to be able to do. We've got people from all different walks of life. We've got somebody here from Australia, somebody here from the UK. We're down here in Mexico. You're in Maryland, West Virginia. We all had a discussion. Everyone has been respectful. Everyone has been kind. Everyone has shared information, and we didn't fight. And they say we can't do it. Well, we've demonstrated that we can do it. So that's how I want to land my plane. Anything?
And I want to thank everybody for being here. I really appreciate your time because our attention is the most precious currency that is on this planet. That is why they want to seduce you with all of their antics on the television, because your attention is the most valuable currency. But more than anything, in this time where we are right now, I really want everybody to amp up their kindness. Kindness is going to be a, a currency that is there won't be a value to be able to be placed on it with what we all can kind of see is coming and happening. But keep your wits about you. If you're not following everyone that's already here, everybody, let's support each other and follow everyone, and share information that you feel is valuable to other people. Maybe something that you've learned something new. Please feel free to share, and don't be shy. If you don't know something, it's also okay to say you don't know something, or I just learned that. I know that they've put quite a heavy veil on top of everybody to feel like they know everything, or they get it, or they have to have an opinion about everything. And sometimes it's okay to just sit back and just ride it out and just take that back seat. But thank you to all speakers that have come. I really do appreciate you all. And maybe we'll do it again. I don't typically do spaces. I've pretty much walked away from X because all of the monotony and chaos and political divisiveness that is going on this platform. This platform, I do not believe, is a safe platform. But Elon and Trump and all of these people are promoting, it is nothing but Satan's work. I mean, there's no other way for me to express what we're witnessing take place, but this is all Satan's work, and they're making it very clear who their master is. So I try to stay off of here, but my DMs are open. If anybody is open or wants to have another discussion like this, I do have a YouTube channel. It's on my handle on my X page. I do occasionally do videos on there. I don't think Roy has any desire to start his back up, but he's got great stuff from previously that you should check out. So with that said, I also want to give my very good friend Santos Bonacci another shout out. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday birthday, Santos Badachi.
Can you dig it?
That was the black version, just why, y'all. That's Stevie Wonder right there. Stevie Wonder all day. All right, y'all have a good one. I hope that we made you smile. I hope that you walk away with this with something of value, and you all have a blessed one. Bless you and your families, and stay safe. Keep your frequency high. Much love to you all. Good night.